The YNW Melly murder trial got interesting today. Prosecutor shows a self-incriminating message between Melly and another rapper the morning after the murders. Then Melly's lawyer cross-examines the lead detective Moretti about how he conducted the investigation and other potential suspects for around 2 hours. And it gets pretty intense, boys. So sadly, the rest of the stream got deleted for whatever reason. It's nowhere on YouTube. So this is all we get for the day. Subscribe right now. Let's get right into this.
I did that with a smiley emoji.
The infamous "I did that" message to PZ Gambino, another rapper, and then he says shush right after.
Response to from the PZ Gambino account.
The PZ Gambino account asked him if he was okay, and his response was, I did that, and placed a smiley face emoji. After that, S-H-H-H-H.
Part you're saying where he's
Definitely not a good look. Not a good look for Melly to say I did that shush. We don't have the full context, as we've seen in other conversations throughout this trial, that once they add the full conversation, it's like, oh, well, that could be perceived a different way. Iffy, but to a jury that could be important. Oh, Melly's lawyer's about to come up now and talk about this. Let's see how they approach this, because this is a self-snitching message, let's be honest, but we don't know the full context.
Point to where I did that. Is that correct? And how do you spell that?
T-H-A-T.
Okay.
It's pointing out the spelling of the way Melly spelled the word that.
It's coming from 9807, the phone. T-H-A-T, that. Correct?
Correct.
This is coming from the 9807 that the state has introduced thousands of pages indicating
counsel testifying.
that it belongs, or it's a phone that Melly uses. Correct?
Correct.
Page 1 of defense exhibit coming from 9807. Would you tell the jury how he spells that?
Dat, D-A-T.
D-A-T.
I had a feeling he was going to say it's Melly spells that differently. It says D-A-T.
Will you tell the jury how he spells that?
D-A-T.
D-A-T. Not T-H-A-T. D-A-T, correct?
Right.
Page 3, coming out of 9807. How does he spell that?
D-A-T.
So when Melly spells the word that, you want me to go through all 19 pages? Or will you take my word that every time, coming out of 9807 that's attributed to this young man as writing the message, he does not spell it T-H-A-T, but D-A-T. Would you like to look through them?
No, sir. You're asking me to explain that the one moment he decided to use proper grammar.
One moment. These phones messages sitting there.
Where he said that, T-H-A-T, was on Instagram, I believe. And he's trying to cast out and show that there was a difference between the way he was spelling on the cell phone and the Instagram. I think he's just trying to hint that it could have been someone else on his Instagram account. Like maybe his manager talking. Like just trying to cast doubt, confuse the jury, honestly.
These phone messages that the state introduced sitting on this pages that we painfully went through.
Jesus.
He spells it D-A-T, not T-H-A-T, except for this one occasion, right?
Correct.
What a strange... I'm sorry, Judge. I apologize. Somewhat unusual, wouldn't you think? 3 people in his car, correct?
Yes, sir.
Was Anthony Williams,
Yes.
and sitting in the rear passenger seat was Christopher Thomas.
Yes.
Only those 3 people when the shooting occurred, correct?
Correct.
You learned that he lied to you about where the drive-by shooting was, correct?
Yes.
You went to, 3 different areas to look for evidence of the drive-by of Cortland, what Cortland Henry told you, correct?
Yes.
You learned at that time that at first he was labeled a victim, but that he now is lying to the police concerning the shooting of 2 individuals.
He was still listed as a victim that day.
I mean, Bortland did show up to the hospital with 2 dead bodies and gunshot residue on his hands. Any lawyer's going to try to be like, yo, what about this guy? Like, how do you know for sure that it wasn't this guy driving the car and not my defendant?
There is such a crime as lying to the police.
Yes, sir. It's a misdemeanor.
You could have arrested him if you so chose for lying to the police, correct?
You're saying that you arrested a potential victim of a violent crime on a misdemeanor?
Could you just answer my question? Could you have arrested him, yes or no?
Yes.
So he chose not to arrest him because he probably wasn't sure at that point in time if he lied for sure or not yet. I mean, these detectives go into this with no information, 0. So we know a lot more information now. So now we're going to think that we would think a little bit better than these detectives, but they go in this blind.
Spoke to him for approximately an hour or 2, correct?
It was about an hour.
And he gave you the address where he lives, that Melly lives there, correct?
Yes.
Anthony Williams one of the victims, lives there. He tells you Christopher Thomas, the other victim, lives there, correct?
Correct.
And he also tells you Melly is a recording artist, correct?
Yes.
$16 million went into Jameson Francois' bank account.
Over a 30-month period, yes.
We also got to think, all right, that's a huge number. People are like, Melly made $16 million. 100K tracker, Jameson Francois, as they just said, managed other huge artists, including King Von, too, who probably still makes a good amount of money off of him as well. And he probably has a bunch of other little artists as well. So this is probably the main account that majority of the money goes into for a lot of artists.
A rather successful, would you say, recording artist.
I really don't understand the music business. I don't know how the money's made, how it comes in.
I'm not asking you that. Someone who earns $16 million in 30 months legally is pretty successful, wouldn't you say?
Well, I don't, like I said before, that we could never determine the amount of money.
The lawyer flexing Melly's money right there. I can guarantee you Melly did not make $60 million in 30 months. I mean, maybe if this is the time period of like when he's been in jail, but I don't think he would have gotten that big of a advance up front from a label. Like there's no way a label would risk giving money to Melly right now. I'm pretty sure he signed to 300 Entertainment before he was arrested.
You know, because Mr. Francois had other clients, so we could never isolate what specifically is made by one artist over another.
I literally just said, I had a feeling he was going to say that. It's not 100% all Melly's money.
The driver of the car that lied to you and Melly lived, and you had the address at the same house.
Yes.
You also learned about that time, and you mentioned it briefly. A text message came out from a crucial almighty.
Yes.
And that text message was, we were just aiming at YNW, correct?
Yes, sir.
And it had a picture of him with a target, correct?
Yes, sir.
So it would be fair to say, on October 26th, his real name was David Hedgepath. Well, it's suspect number one, based upon that.
It was a person of interest. It was something to look at.
So he's suddenly just bringing up other potential suspects.
When did you decide to talk to the David who said he shot at this young man inside a Jeep? What date?
I first did a search warrant into his social media account where they came from, which then we was able to determine a better picture of Mr. Hedgepath was. So it was probably maybe 2 years later when we interviewed Mr. Hedgepath.
2 years later, a year after this young man surrenders to you, to the police?
I'm not sure the exact date, but
February of 19. Would you agree it was 2 years after that?
yes, sir.
That is a little late. I mean, if the guy's tweeting shit or posting shit on social media saying he shot at YNW or whatever, that is like, why are you doing that 2 years later? I feel like you should get that done in the first few months. I mean, just to like X about.
His work records.
And when did you subpoena those work records?
2 years later, after we interviewed him.
Okay. And I think you introduced him. Did you speak to any of his co-employees to verify whether or not he was really working when the time clock indicated he was?
Yes, sir.
Lawyer probably wasn't hoping he was going to say yes to that question.
That they were having a problem with a guy named Benton.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to label him as suspect number 2. Who is Benton?
He never could identify.
Never identified someone they were beefing with. Again, he's just doing his job, trying to cast out.
You also learned that there was a problem at Walmart. They got jumped, and I think a necklace or a bracelet was stolen.
A little pendant fell off one of them, yes.
Did you go to Walmart to investigate that?
No, sir.
By October 27th, you identified Cortland Henry, Anthony Williams,
Yes, sir.
Christopher Thomas,
Yes, sir.
Trevon Glass,
Yes, sir.
Melly,
Yes, sir.
Toby Mills,
Octavius Withers.
Octavius Withers, and Adrian
Davis.
Davis. All 8 people that left the recording studio, and you had observed the bloody scene of inside the Jeep, correct?
Correct.
And you knew that Cortland Henry had lied to you,
Correct.
obtained a search warrant to look at that house to see if you could find any blood, any gun, or anything. What happened in that car, correct?
There is no way we could search warrant for that house because there was no nexus to the crime to the house. And I have to establish a nexus between the two, or the judges will not sign the warrant.
Did you even try, sir, to get a search warrant and go in front of a judge and say, I got 8 people who left the studio. They all live in the same house. The driver of the vehicle we interviewed lied, and the inside of the Jeep is covered in blood, and we're looking for the gun or guns and the bloody clothes involved in this. Did you bother to do that, sir?
So like I said before, there was no connection between the house and the crime itself. Now,
The answer-
where we had blood, where we had evidence, where we had instruments of a crime, we did search warrants. Anytime we had a nexus between the two, we did a search warrant.
You could have secured that house by officers standing in front of it and at least come to this jury and say, I went to a judge explain to the judge 8 people live in a house, 8 people left the studio, and a few hours later 2 people ended up dead, and the driver of the vehicle lied to us about everything concerning the shooting. You could have done that, couldn't you?
No, that's not how that works, sir.
Not how it works. Fair enough.
Yeah.
The house where Melly lived.
No, sir.
How about December?
They were already gone at that point.
Traces of blood, because we saw that you sprayed this agent on things and miraculously blood surfaces. You know that.
Yes, sir.
Did you do that?
No, sir.
So yeah, doing a pretty good job on showing how the detective maybe could have done more, even though he's saying that he couldn't have. But it could make the jury be like, wow, this guy didn't really investigate this the best. Who knows? Who knows what the jury is thinking?
That conversation was not specific to the murder. That was
Excuse me.
specific.
Did you, in fact, threaten to have him be federally indicted? Yes or no?
Yes, because of gun sales.
Gun sales. Did you, in fact, tell him that he would not see his kids for a couple of years?
Possibly. Yeah. Yes.
What?
Yes, sir.
I mean, we've heard throughout the trial, Melly's mom got hurt by this guy. Like, he twisted her hand and tore some ligaments in Melly's mom's hand. He threatened to charge Melly's girlfriend with accessory after the fact, I believe.
Did you, in fact, threaten Jameson Francois?
Melly's manager.
Same answer, sir. We advised him that lying to us could result in their arrest.
Did you, in fact, tell him he would be deported to Haiti?
Yes.
Threaten Jameson Francois to be deported to Haiti, even though he's been in this country since 5 years?
Yes, sir.
Did you, in fact, threaten that he would not get fed and get any medicine in the Haitian jails?
I don't know about that.
God damn, this detective was wildin'. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do sometimes, but damn.
Threatening a witness.
Objection, Your Honor.
Can you ask a question? What's the objection?
Relevance.
I overrule as well, go ahead.
Do you think
She objected before he even finished the question.
threatening a witness who tells you something that you don't like really gets to the truth?
Objection, Your Honor. Relevance.
Sustain.
Did you, in fact, tell him that the jails are overcrowded, in referring to Haiti? It's disease-ridden. It's a, excuse my French, a shithole.
Relevance.
Nay, objection not overruled.
Yes, sir.
Consider these threats that you gave to these various witnesses.
Objection, Your Honor. Speculation.
Sustain.
Relevance.
You obviously don't follow that
Objection,
technique.
Your Honor.
Sustain.
Let me show you the list of suspects that we talked about and see if this is true and correct. May I approach? Would you sign it for me? Dated today's date?
I mean, he did show the detective was, doing some wild stuff, threatening people and lying and doing some crazy shit to witnesses to try to get them to talk. Pretty standard practice for the police and detectives, I mean, in general. Like, I'm pretty sure I've heard of detectives doing that for years, so it's just what happens.
That he needs not only the provider name, but the list of powers in a particular area so that he can attempt to map out and tell a jury like this where the phones are located at a particular time.
I have to disagree because the platform they use, CASFIDS, is linked with what's called NDCAC. It's the national database of all the cell towers that's maintained in the United States. So the platform they use is constantly updated.
That they cannot pinpoint at a particular time exactly where a phone is at any particular time.
Correct.
They can only give a general area.
Correct, sir.
That general area is approximately a couple miles wide, correct?
No, it's more like meters as compared to miles. It's accurate, but it's not precise.
He's doing what any lawyer would do to phone records that track someone, trying to show that it's a general area, not an exact location. That phone puts Melly in the car, remember, so.
Something on the cell records called environment. You use that as a guide to locate or plot where a particular phone is at a particular time, correct?
No, sir, that's inaccurate. The environment just tells us where the phone is interpreting where it's at. Example, it tells us if it's mobile, if it's outdoor, it tells us it's indoor. The environment it has nothing to do with the location data. Corroborated with video. Example, when he walked out of the recording studio at 3:18 a.m., the phone was registering outdoor.
How about when it was on I-75 or 595?
It was staying mobile.
That was a good explanation from the detective, because I really didn't grasp all that. All the talk about environment. So your phone knows when you're in a car going 50 miles per hour, pretty much. It changes to saying mobile, or the cell towers do at least.
That the FBI never, ever uses the label environment because they cannot attest to the reliability of that.
I'm not aware of that.
Fair enough.
Good bounce back for the lawyer.
You also use latitude and longitude. Are you aware that the FBI does not rely upon the latitude and longitude when they determine where a phone is?
It's an estimate. The cell phone provider is providing us an estimate what they believe the phone might be. Like we said before, it's not precise.
My question to you wasn't that. My question to you is, are you aware?
Excuse me.
There has been false readings with there has been false readings with towers. Sometimes anomalies within the records. It happens.
That you attempted to, well, you did get some cameras off of 595 and I-75, correct?
Yes, sir.
Could you tell the jury if you could see who was in each vehicle?
No, sir, you cannot.
Could you tell this jury how many people were in each vehicle?
No, sir, you cannot tell.
How about the CVS that's on Miramar Parkway?
It doesn't cover up that far.
Did you pull it?
We went there.
Did you look at it?
Yes, sir.
How about Applebee's?
Yeah, there's a pharmacy there, but there's no Applebee's there.
Did you go to that pharmacy?
Yes, sir.
Did you pull the surveillance?
No, sir.
How about the Pollo Tropical?
Their videos didn't come in that area.
Did you pull them?
No, sir.
Did you look at them?
No, sir.
Did you look at the camera at Publix that's on that road?
Doesn't cover the road, sir.
How about the Walgreens?
No, sir.
Again, he's trying to make the detective look like he didn't do the best job investigating this.
But you did a helicopter ride to show this jury this route on what day?
May 2023.
May of 2023,
Yes, sir.
after this trial started. Correct?
Objection, Your Honor.
They were doing a lot of shit last minute, I gotta admit. Like, they found more DNA on the door handle of Melly a month and a half ago. Apparently this helicopter ride was in May. I didn't realize that either.
4 years after this young man surrendered. Correct?
Sustained objection. Yes, next question.
Third phone found in the car, correct?
Yes, sir.
That you said you don't know who the owner is, correct?
Correct, sir.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
And it goes to a Sprint phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
You're aware that that SIM number can be tracked once you have the provider
Yes, sir.
to a particular phone.
Yes, sir.
Did you do that in this case?
No, sir.
Fair enough.
That's interesting. I don't know why he wouldn't do that, but I guess he thought it wasn't needed.
Pictures taken of the two individuals that were shot before they were removed from the vehicle, the Jeep.
Yes. No, sir.
I had a feeling someone was going to end up doing this, one of the defense lawyers, because previously, like a week or two ago, he brought up how there's no footage or pictures whatsoever of the dead bodies and the vehicle.
You immediately go and speak to Cortland Henry, correct?
Yes, sir.
And we listen to the tape of Mr. Henry.
Yes, sir.
The tape they're talking about of Cortland talking to the police, I'll put it as an annotation above. It's pretty bad. Cortland does sound like he's lying in it.
You learned that he lied to you about where the drive-by shooting was, correct?
Yes.
You went to, what, 3 different areas to look for evidence of the drive-by of Cortland, what Cortland Henry told you, correct?
Yes.
Oh, we finally got to see Melly today. Seems to be staring someone down.
There was also the red Mitsubishi that was seen leaving the vehicle, leaving the area, correct?
Yes, sir.
Search the red Mitsubishi at any time
No, sir.
to get fingerprints to determine who was inside that vehicle.
No, sir.
Just showing little holes that could make him look bad. But, you know, to me, I'm like on the fence. I'm like, yeah, he could have been a little biased towards certain things and focused more on certain things, but
That could verify, would it not, whether or not Melly got inside that vehicle.
Not necessarily.
But it could.
Possibly, yes.
that was a good answer for the lawyer right there.
Your information indicated that this young man was not in the Jeep at that time when the shootings occurred, correct?
That was based upon the false statement of don't take his withers.
Christopher Thomas Sr. Without telling us what it is, what he told you, that Christopher Thomas Sr. had issues with Anthony Williams.
Sustained.
Melly's lawyer's hinting at Juvie's dad having beef with Sack Chaser. Apparently he told them that. I'm gonna fix my hat, sorry.
And that's based upon some analysis of a phone, correct?
Sounds like yes, sir.
You find absolutely nothing.
Correct.
And you learn that basically you went on a wild goose chase based upon your analysis of that one phone, correct?
Yes, sir.
I think that's the lawyer trying to show that the cell towers could be inaccurate and ping off random towers and confuse the detective, so it could be inaccurate, maybe.
An apartment belonging to Jameson Francois that leads to a locker, a storage locker, correct?
Yes, sir.
You found another black holster with a Glock back strap on it, and a black holster with a magazine holder, and various gun locks, correct?
Yes, sir.
You never asked him about those black holsters found in there, correct?
I'm not sure, sir.
You're not sure. Cortland Henry was arrested in Texas, correct?
Correct, sir.
Melly's lawyer hinting at the fact that the detective flew out to Texas to try to talk to Cortland before his lawyer swooped in.
Knowing he had a lawyer, correct?
Yes.
And you went out there to question him about this case, correct?
His rights were never invoked.
In fact, you were escorted out of the jail because the yelling between you and he got so loud that the guards asked you to leave, correct?
No, sir, that's a false statement.
False statement. On February 14th, you conduct another search on US 27 and Johnson Street, correct?
Yes, sir.
That's also based upon your so-called analysis of various items that you looked at, correct?
Yes, sir.
Tell this jury what you found.
Nothing.
You get this phone 9807 from Mr. Jameson Francois, correct?
Yes, sir.
You have, as we sit here today, no idea how long he had that phone, correct?
That's not true, sir.
So Melly's manager turned in his phone. I believe because he had to, because I think it was like subpoenaed or some shit. I don't know, but.
The defendant talked to his mother and told her they need to get the phone up to track.
Ooh, yeah, the jail call did say, I'm giving the phone to track.
The victim's DNA was on Mr. Henry's shirt, correct?
Yes, sir.
Had GSR located on his hands.
2 parts GSR.
That miraculously, Sergeant Williams found additional evidence in the vehicle that obviously someone missed.
Yes, sir, I read that.
So someone did do their job completely.
Objection, Your Honor.
Same.
So how about Quando Wando,
I did not expect for him to say Quando Rondo.
who also threatened this young man? Did you bother to talk to him or investigate him?
No, sir.
Didn't you threaten Patrick Deloach without telling me what it is?
No, sir, I don't believe I threatened him. Did I advise him that lying to us could result in him being charged with a crime? Yes.
Said, no, sir, I didn't threaten him, but did I advise him that lying to us would make him get charged with a crime? Yes.
Did you threaten her?
Did not threaten her, sir. I advised her that not being truthful and honest could result in her being arrested for accessory after the fact.
All right, so that wraps up day 15. Pretty much just Melly's lawyer cross-examines the detective and tries to add little holes to what the detective did and how he investigated everything and potential suspects that he didn't really investigate. And he's trying to make the detective look bad and look like he botched the investigation, which I think he did a decent job on. It all depends, though. I'll keep calling this trial. If you're new to my channel, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, Instagram. Peace out.